Hey Mindy, thank you very much for being with me today as we explore the topic of mission-based teams and how they can grow and perform. Before we kick off, as our audience watches this, I just wanted to speak to you and I have been partnering with Churchill clients now for probably close to 10 years, and there's one consistent theme that clients think of when they describe you or they share when they describe you, but also when they request you. We want Mindy because, and I just want to call that out there because it is very consistent and clear. It is, yes, you are an absolute expert in terms of leadership and team development, doing executive coaching and team coaching and enabling a team to truly shine the light on them and what they're doing and recognize where it is they're wanting to go and why. I think the piece on top of that that just makes you so amazing is your business focus from your own experience of working in business, working on businesses, and your many, many years of full-time coaching, you understand the importance of the purpose of the work, the mission of the work, the mission of the team, and also the business goals. And so when clients come to us, they're coming because you, for executive teams, really can pull the two together and help them focus on
Thank
what
you.
is it we're trying to achieve together, what are the business outcomes, what is the mission, but then really tying the work they do together to grow and expand capability. So it's totally aligned with those results. And we're really proud of
Thank
you.
you.
And thank you for your
Thanks.
willingness to share more today. So I'm going to start with the first question. You're very welcome. So if we're
Yeah.
going to talk about mission-based teams and how you can become one and become even more effective as a team, um, share three facts about you that you want the audience to know in addition to what I've just shared
Three facts about me or about mission-based teams,
about
about what
mission-based
I
teams.
want the audience.
Yeah, about
Okay,
mission.
very good. Okay, great. Well, thank you again, Jane. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate those accolades. It's hard to sit through, but I appreciate it. First thing, and you mentioned this in that lovely intro, was the work and the focus on the work in the business. I think the biggest thing I want audience members to take away with regard to mission-based teams and what distinguishes them is they are for and united by and strictly about purpose. They're not your functionally based team or cross-functionally based team. This is a group of people, a group of talent that has come together for a specific purpose, a specific mission, and it may be ongoing to the business, or it may be something where they come together, accomplish their goal, and disperse and go elsewhere. So I think the work is what unites and brings the mission-based team together. Point number one. Something else is it's super critical, and this just seems to be such a flashpoint these days, and I'm going to say it. It is critical to have great diversity on these teams in both general and functional knowledge, viewpoints, expertise, experience, as because we know the power of multiple brains coming together spark new thinking, they spark new ideas, new solution approaches, and ways to really conquer these things. Because some of these mission-based teams are tackling things their organizations have yet to solve. And I think the third thing I would want to leave audience members with is really jump into and lean into. And as a Gen Xer, I've had to work a little bit harder at this, using technology and technology-based ways of communicating, organizing the work, documenting progress. It's critical. Platforms like Miro boards and Lucid and Murmur help teams create together. They help teams think and collaborate together, document their work, test, scale, share agreements, and really create results both when they're co-located and when they're geographically or dispersed over time zones or geographies. So those three things I think are going to be critical to know about mission-based teams.
Thank you. And you may touch on this in the conversation today, that piece about bringing together people with diverse thinking, diverse backgrounds, ideas, etc. It is critical. At Churchill, we often coach or get requested to coach leaders to help them be more innovative. And we have to remind ourselves that you can't turn someone into being very innovative necessarily, but you can help a leader know how to create an environment of innovation, right? And that includes bringing people together that will think differently so they can connect the dots and come up with new and better, as well as the tools that you just mentioned. So thank you. Um, just for further clarity for the audience, right? Describe what you mean by a mission-based team and how it's different to a team that might not be mission-based. You started to, but just add a bit more to that, please.
Yeah, just to go a little deeper. So mission-based teams are formed for the purposes of solving a sticky, illogical, often previously unsolved problem or issue that the organization's facing, or something that the organization has yet to conquer. Or sometimes mission-based teams are formed for the purposes of achieving a result in a super shortened or specific time frame. And I've got an example of one of those teams a little bit later on. So for example, increasing a customer satisfaction or loyalty measure, or more often the teams I've coached, because I do love to play in the innovation space, is to explore a new product, a new market, or a new service. And that innovation is sparked, right? It's different than invention. It's when previously unconnected ideas or thoughts or solutions come together. That's really the essence of innovation. And that's often the space I play in with mission-based teams. I mentioned a little bit before, Jayne, they do differ from functional teams. So teams in accounting or finance or accountings and sales. I've actually worked with lots of cross-functional teams. I think organizations are getting a little bit better at working cross-functionally and understanding who their upstream and downstream customers and suppliers are. But sometimes those teams meet regularly on a basis, and sometimes they accomplish very little. So mission-based teams are different from those types of teams. And then lastly, again, I can't overemphasize this enough, is those diverse perspectives coming together to make sense of the bigger organization environment far outpaces the work that a functional team can do. So we organize by function to go deep in our expertise. We organize by mission to go fast.
I love that last bit that you mentioned there. It's almost the word synergistic comes together, right? You bring all these people together that have different backgrounds, different ideas, different work experiences with a really, really clear purpose that we're like glued together to achieve this purpose. But the gluing together makes us so much bigger than the single parts alone. And I know I've seen that. I know you've seen it in spades from case studies that you've reported out from working with clients. And it's so true, isn't it? When you can really get everyone going in the right direction with the passion and bringing the ideas that are needed. So when you think about work in general, our work here at Churchill is with corporations, with global corporations. And so we're always trying to figure out what's the future look like? Where's the organization trying to go? What skills and capabilities and behaviors are needed to expand leaders and teams to help us get there, right? Because everything around us is constantly changing. So can you touch a little on why mission-based teams are and will be important to the future of work?
Yeah, great question. Um, I find, and I've actually experienced this in my career as a leader, as a coach, the nature of the work and the problems we're solving will only continue to escalate and continue to increase in complexity. And there's a difference between complicated and complex. So the work is getting more complex. We've solved the easy stuff. And what's left is those things that we haven't quite yet figured out, or we haven't even quite invented or thought about. And talent, as we experienced in the pandemic, it may not all be assembled in a work location or a geographic location, and talent is key. So as the problems continue to become increasingly complex, and as we realize that what we might need may be a talent that's not anywhere where we are, we have to think about those things if we're going to be successful in the future of work.
Thank you. You mentioned the difference between complex and was it complicated?
Yeah.
I'm sure people that are listening to this like, well, what is the difference?
Yes, Frederick Laloux, the wiki and his whole body of work around reinventing organizations. I hope I got that right. Frederick Laloux talks about this dynamic. And if you think about, he gave an example, and I love this because I share it with clients. An airplane engine is complicated. However, if any one piece is removed, there is an engineer that will know what will happen and what the consequences are to that piece being removed or replaced. A bowl of spaghetti is complex. You don't know what's going to happen if you make an effect. So complicated cause and effect, complexity not necessarily cause and effect. And our problems are increasingly complex. You don't know what's going to happen if you pull a noodle in a bowl of spaghetti. It's complex.
Yeah. Unpredictable almost.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Now that we've got more clarity on what a mission-based team is and it's important to the workplace, if a team is listening to this or a leader of a team's listening to this and they're thinking, maybe we should be a mission-based team. We haven't really thought of that. What is it we need to do to become a mission-based team? Can you share a couple of practical ways a team can move towards becoming a mission-based team, please?
I think the first thing critical is be crystal clear on problem definition. This is actually part of a lot of work I do with teams is what problem are we solving and why? Organizations are really good at solving problems. Sometimes they're just not really solving the right problem. So what you're seeking to solve, be crystal clear. And I would also add, even though we don't have time to talk about it, maybe this is a whole other blog, a very well-developed hypothesis. This is what I learned in all of my training and development and formal education and pragmatic work experience. Have a super clear idea of what you think is going to happen. If we do X, this will happen because of Y. And hypotheses development and problem definition, super critical to a mission-based team. I mentioned this before, I'll say it again. Get people on the mission team with zero experience and expertise in whatever the current topic is. They will challenge the team and challenge the group to look at things from a fresh perspective. They'll ask questions. They'll only come at it from a basis of curiosity, and get them to be in part and involved in the mission. And I would say get a strong program or project manager early, and of course work with a team coach, right? All elite athletes work with coaches. And I think more and more people in organizational settings are realizing that coaching can be a huge value add and accelerator to a mission-based team.
Oh, absolutely. I'd like to sort of pull on a couple of things that you said there. The the benefit of having people like from the outside, from haven't done this before, because you look at it through new eyes, which again pulls back to that sort of innovation. Um, as Churchill's continued to grow and done so by being acquired by 34 Strong recently, I'm experiencing that because we're looking at their world and they're looking at our world and asking each other questions like, oh gosh, we never thought of that. That is brilliant. And so those new eyes on things is incredibly powerful. The piece about having a team coach, the one thing, and I'm a certified team coach, so I say this from my own experience as well as observing you and our coaches around the globe, is I often describe it like a family at Thanksgiving or Christmas Day dinner. We come together at that time of year every year. We probably do some of the same things with traditions and stuff. And it's the norm for us. We operate as a system in a norm. And if someone was sort of on the ceiling looking down, it's a bit strange that this family does this, or a bit strange that that uncle does this. But we operate in a way that we're used to. And having a coach to observe and coach, give feedback in the moment really shines the light on things that we should do more of this to be even more effective, or this is getting in our way and we don't really know it because we've always done it that way. And that objectivity can't come within the team itself. So that's just
Yeah.
one of the many powers of team coaching. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, Mindy. So, with all your experience, right? Um, as a certified and very experienced corporate team coach, can you just share one of your many stories of a team that truly have transformed into an effective mission-based team? Hold back on obviously anything confidential, but share enough where our audience can picture and understand the transformation, please.
Sure, absolutely. I don't know that it's the team I'm thinking of that I referenced a little bit earlier. I'm not sure that I would say it was transformed, but formed a mission-based team. In this case, it was a global customer experience organization who wanted to tackle customer satisfaction, a customer satisfaction measure. So this is the context is within a larger global multinational business. And they actually formed a mission-based team and resulted in increasing their customer satisfaction score by 5.5 basis points. The goal was 4, and they exceeded it by 1.5 basis points in a 3-month time frame. And it was extraordinary. This is actually a team I've been working with as a coach. but they formed in and of itself. They took members from that team and members from other pieces of the organization to form this team. There were many super creative ideas and solution approaches emerged because they were crystal clear on their purpose, customer satisfaction. Now, that didn't mean that there weren't other ideas and conversations that work sparked. For example, one of the questions that came into consideration was, is customer satisfaction the right measure for delivering an extraordinary global customer experience? And that was really interesting to the group of people. Just to your point earlier, sometimes the team itself doesn't see its own system and doesn't see it differently, just like your family Christmas and Thanksgiving example really talked to. So they created one of the really innovative ideas that came out of was they created customer labs where they could closely follow what the changes were that they were proposing to make and then see the downstream results of actually the impact on the customer. A lot of times, not this particular customer experience team, but many customer experience teams find that they've just gotten very distanced from the actual customer and they've gone on to do things in a way of efficiency or some pressure from the other organization, and they've gotten away from customer support. So this team did that and executed on that so they could see impacts to the customer in real time. They specifically increased their ability to make decisions on this work very quickly. And they're noticing how quickly they were able to accelerate decision making made during that mission, again, allowing for not stopping progress. They learned, they tested, they made adjustments to their approach, as well as captured new ideas, but they were struck themselves about the speed in which they could make decisions and try things to see what would have an effect. And again, the team, because they were from parts of the organization that were familiar with operations, as well as parts of the organization that had zero clue, they were really able to keep the customer at the center of the work, and not just merely the measurement. So they had the effect on the measurement, in fact, exceeded it, but they were able to really stay super close to what they know that they were in existence for as an organization. So very proud of the team, and interesting to watch how the work unfolded.
I just love how much you love your work,
I
right?
do.
You really
I
do. It like shines through consistently.
do.
And one of the things that sort of I really heard as a theme there was the agility for continuous improvement, to experiment, test, adjust. But what also came with that is the speed, right? The speed, and I think that's also where a coach can help is the acceleration. Um, to sort of get clear on what it is we're trying to do, to get feedback in the moment, and keep moving together with that sort of cadence that's needed in business nowadays, especially to differentiate an organization from other organizations. Now, I'm curious, as I'm sure our audience is what, how did that work with that team, help that team be more successful? Are there any business results or business outcomes that you can share?
Great question. Well, first of all, they did exceed their goal by 1.5 basis points. And there were, of course, number crunchers and data analysts within the team that could translate that into revenue as well as efficiency goals. So that was really quite interesting. One of the other things that I noticed as coach, and I've noticed this in organizations, is the other great ideas that got sparked, like should we even be using this as our measure? They didn't let that lose the focus of the mission-based team. They effectively parking lotted it, put it in a database where they could go back and address that at the appropriate time, but they didn't let their focus get muddied, or some of the words you might have heard is scope creep. And I see that happening over and over. It's like, what about this? What about this? And then nothing actually gets accomplished. So I think that's another maybe less tangible, but really critical business result. The other thing that they shared and I saw when we did a retrospective on this work was that they really saw an increased shared accountability across many work teams and even work business processes in the organization. And that was something they experienced for themselves as lived experience that they hadn't seen before. They also were super open about the fact that this was a muscle building exercise for keeping an open mindset, for finding and actually working towards new ideas and approaches, for listening to others' perspectives, and finding ways to challenge, but respectfully, I think is another outcome. And it built more tolerance in the broader organization that it's okay if things don't exactly go as planned. Let's learn from it and move on. And I think that's another really tangible way of working inside of an organization that kind of cuts through that sludge and this is the way we've always done it mentality.
New ways of working is a term I hear you and other coaches say a lot, right? And it reminds me that, like I said, everything around us constantly changes in business. There's always these really complex challenges that will come. It's not like we're successful and we're done, right? Things become easier. And figuring out not only what we have to solve for and the real problem that's ahead of us that we have to solve for first, but figuring out new ways of working together is so important for teams. Just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean if we do it that way moving forward, it's going to be successful for us. And that is a key piece for both leader development as well as intact team development. What about AI? How does AI fit into or support the development and growth of mission-based teams?
Such a great question. I'm thinking about this a lot and educating myself more and more on the impact of AI and what it is already doing and how it's already changing the way we work. I'll speak to generative AI. It allows us to get and access data and compile more information much more quickly than the human brain can possibly do. It doesn't, however, replace the human ability to synthesize and sense make, right? So that team of diverse brains are what comes together to make sense of different things for the purpose, for the organization, for the end result. So it can be a starting point, but the value of the team is what has to turn that data into action and results. So lots more to learn relative to this
Yeah.
massive change that we're all going to be undergoing.
I'm right there with you, fascinated, testing, trying. Why are you so passionate about this type of work, specifically mission, partnering with teams that want to be mission based and grow and perform better? And yeah, just in that space, because you can work with teams, but then there are these mission based teams. And why are you so passionate about them?
I love the sticky, illogical, previously unsolved, unconquerable, this is impossible type of challenges. I've been in them myself. I've coached to them, and I've seen just, again, the capability and capacity of human beings to come together and solve anything
Yeah.
never ceases to amaze me. So I am super passionate about it because of that. Watching humans come together and harness their ability to make sense of things and accomplish more than any one person, one function, or one leader could ever do.
Thank you. Thank you. And my final question is, and I'll give a little context first, is why senior executive leadership teams choose Mindy to be their coach, because we have over 100 certified systemic team coaches at Churchill, which across the 50 countries that we serve really are a global team. And we usually give clients a choice of coach, right? Once we've helped them figure out what is it they want to work on, what's their baseline, where is it they want to get to at a conceptual high level roadmap level. Now, which is the best coach to partner with you on this journey? And you get chosen so often. Why do you think they choose you?
Thank you. Um,
I
I
know this is
think
probably the
really
toughest
it's because
question.
I think it's because I've been through it many times and in many different situations, personal, professional, large scale, small scale, entrepreneurial, somewhat monopolistic market. It's just both as a business leader and a coach of senior leaders. And I think it's the combination of both my passion for the work and my real world practical experience that makes me their choice. I am the queen of the applied. Yes, I've got, the background, the formal education and training. Part of the reason I love the game of business is because you do something, you get a result. And if it's connected to something that solves a problem or a pain point for a customer, it's gold.
Yeah. Thank you, Mindy. I'm just going to build on that a little just because I know you so well. We've already mentioned that innovation is one of your specialties, as is productivity. And you are fun to work with. You mentioned game there. I know you're an avid and very good tennis player, and you have these great analogies when you think of sports performance and how that's important to you. And of course, you're a big football fan as well. And who's your team again? Oh,
Well, for football, it's Ohio State Buckeyes, the
yep.
reigning national champions, who overcame a lot to earn that title. Um, I will tell you the one example that specifically relates to this that's not tennis or football, which are my two primary favorites, was the University of Connecticut women's basketball team that also garnered their 12th national championship, the first in 10 years. That team should have never, by any definition, won that championship. And what they did, their ability to come together in a mission and work together to solve the problems that they were facing, is a brilliant example in a sports world of a
Yeah.
team that had a mission and worked together to overcome it. You can even see YouTube video of their coach Gino Auriemma saying, "I didn't even think we'd make the NCAA tournament when we first came together as a team." So it was it was a beautiful thing to watch. They schooled a very good basketball team in the South Carolina basketball team to get that national championship. And if they weren't super clear on their mission and super clear on everybody's role in achieving that mission, I don't know what better example there has been recently.
Well, thank you. For
Outside
someone that's not as good with sports, that sounds very, very impressive. So, audience, if you would like to meet Coach Mindy to work with your team or have any other leadership and team problems that you're looking to solve, then contact us at churchillleadershipgroup.com. We'll provide the contact information here along with a summary of Mindy's bio. Mindy, thank you. It's always a pleasure and totally enjoyable to work with you. And thank you for your continuous partnership with Churchill and our clients.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
You're welcome. Any final words for our audience that you would like to share?
Go team.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.